Welsh speak a language that is the direct descendant that the prehistoric people of Britain spoke, which makes them, in many ways, the descendants of the, in inverted commas, indigenous people of Britain. The English were usurpers and took lowland Britain away from the Welsh and renamed vast areas of the country. So if we want to understand as much as we can about the prehistoric situation of Britain, we should look out for Welsh, that is British names preserved in the landscape. In the record, we don't have very much about British names in Britain. A lot of them are preserved in Anglo-Saxon documents. And because the Anglo-Saxons renamed a lot of settlements and regions and so on, not very much of it remains, but they did retain a lot of river names that are a direct link to at least sub-Roman British and very possibly prehistoric British names for rivers. And that includes this stream here, the Doncombe Brook, probably. And the reason I say this is because it retains in an early reference, there's only really one reference, but that one reference is an early one, 1236. It's not massively early, it's just within the threshold of what we should be, what we have to look for. And it is spelt, Doncombe is spelt D-O-N-E and not D-U-N. So it's very likely not to be Duna, which is the Old English for the modern English down. So it probably doesn't mean hill. It might still mean hill. It might still mean other things. But there are a large number of rivers that have the word Don in them. And this one could be, even though it's just a little stream, a little brook, it could still be named after, in the same way as the River Don in the north is, near Doncaster, is called that. Also the Danube, also the Rhone. The Rhone used to be called something like Raduna. Also a river in India named after, with the same etymology, that same Danu sound. Did I mention the Danube? Did I mention the Dnieper? It is a common ancient word for water. But we have a religious aspect to this as well, in the sense that there is a theoretical Irish goddess of Danu. There is the Welsh goddess Don, and there is an Indian goddess from the Rig Veda, which I believe is Danu as well. And they give us an insight. That goddess in India represents water. She embodies water and hides her children in that water from danger. And we also know that the Celtic goddess, the Welsh goddess, Don, also does the same. And they're both the heads, the beginnings of large divine dynasties. I just thought I'd mention that. This Doncombe Brook joins up with the river, the Bybrook, which we did a couple of videos ago, and it comes up here. That was in Anglo-Saxon times called the Waver, down near Barford. It gets called something else further up. And even today, the Bybrook has several names on old maps and current maps. So this is what I came here to have a look at. There's two things. Have a look at the Doncombe Brook the valley itself and to see whether or not there was a marsh down here. Now, ground underfoot here is perfectly dry, and you've seen in my videos just how wet it's been, and it's well drained down here. There's a little bit with a few reeds in it. A marsher would not call it. So I think we've solved that topographically, etymologically, and it's up the hill to Henley Hill now. I can smell the bluebells. It's really rich and strong. It's really nice spring-like smell, and so is the spring-like rain. I can smell sort of like wet grass, sort of that ozone-y thing. It's not winter. Anyway, I'm on Henley Hill. Now there isn't an early version. When I mean early, I mean like before 1300, preferably much older than that, to tell us what Henley might mean. Now I know what it might mean, but I can't tell you for sure exactly what it does mean. And Margaret Gelling and the other place name people are adamant you must have early written names in charters and deeds and so on, to be able to have any confidence to be able to say what your ancestors saw in the landscape. So Henley could be the wood or the clearing or rough pasture of the hens, the wild birds. I think the hen swapped sex in the Anglo-Saxon period. I think it means cock, as in cockerel. But we don't know for sure because we don't have an early written form of it. And a good example is north of here is a place called Culverslade, a farm called Culverslade, and that can be, just off the top of my head, it could be four things. A culver is a pigeon, so it could be the Culver's Slade, which means Slade, which is a wooded valley. It could be the Culver's wooded valley. It could be the Culver's Lade, which is the pigeon's passage. It might not be anything to do with pigeons at all. It could be somebody who 200 years before was named after a pigeon, brought his name with him up to here, and it's a surname. So it's Mr. Culver's pasture or Mr. Culver's passage. We can't tell because we don't have an early form. So there's scientific's the wrong word. There is a methodology that is reasoned, which works. It's not 100%, but it's pretty good. The rest is guesswork. So us antiquarians need to. There's pretty much two things that I have that are absolutely vital to understand the landscape, and that is Eccles' concise dictionary of place names, not so concise, and the English Place Name Society, which is all on the internet now. You can just look it up and search for what you want to find. And even if you don't find it in your parish, you might find it in another parish, which will give you some sort of hint as to what you might be looking at. That was Woodley's barn over there, and Woodley's is actually, to contradict what I've just said, is a very easy one to interpret. It is wood and lees. Now Lees doesn't actually have very much to do with, you'll hear me say Lech all the time, and Lee and Leage and stuff like that, or Leach. They're not that related. They have a similar sound, and the Lees comes from Old English Lasware, and from Lasware means pasture, which became our Lees. So you may live in a close in your town or village. It's called Oxleys or something like that, with a Z in it, and that's different from a Lee, and it means pastures. But there's a passage from Alfric's colloquy, put my teeth back in, and he says, as an example, he's teaching his young monks Latin. So most of the book is in Latin, but underneath, in pencil, they've written what it is in Old English. It's one of the ways we know what Old English means, what its grammar is and all the rest of it. And it says, on Erne morgen, it's driver min scherp to Lasware. And that means on the very first light, on the early morning, I drive my sheep to pasture. And it's a bit sort of Peter and James, to teach young monks how to speak Latin. $150 years ago, but anyway, right, that's me done. The battery's running out, both mine and the cameras, so I shall see you on the next one, hopefully. If you enjoyed this one, feel free to watch this one here next, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to see you on the next one. Ta-da for now.